all the violence, they were fine. I mean, I'm killing people with candy canes and Christmas ornaments and all this stuff. But I remember in the initial time we meet Santa, I wanted him to have the glasses. And I wanted him to have like this saccharine Santa look. So I wanted him to also have a pipe. And they were like, no way. No tobacco. You cannot do tobacco. No pipe. And I was like, we're murdering people with all these things. They're like, that's fine, but no pipe.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work.
So just kind of take us back to the beginning when the role came to you, or you first heard about it. I mean, how was it presented to you? Because I mean, obviously, ass-kicking Santa, that's like the role of a lifetime.
I mean, on one hand, yes, and on the other hand, it's like the wackiest thing you've ever heard. And my initial response was, "This is too weird. I don't understand it." And I talked with Tommy and Leach, the producer, and they had such enthusiasm for it, pitched it in a certain way, sent me the script. And I remember, I guess the thing that really made me want to do it was I was reading through the script, and at the end of this wild romp, which is so funny and crazy action and all these sequences, there's some scenes with him and the little girl, and I started to tear up. And that's what made me think, oh, this will be really fun for an audience. Is like you get to go on this wild action ride, but at the end of the day, it's a Christmas movie. And it has that heartwarming feeling that all Christmas movies have, which is believing in Christmas again, believing in the spirit of Christmas and love and joy and giving, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people complain all the time that all the studios put out are comic book movies or sequels and, you know, nothing original, but this is a fairly original film, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was part of the thing too, was like, it was such an original idea that I had never seen anything like it before. And I wanted part of that.
Now, did you have to do any sort of special training for this? Because obviously you've done plenty of stunts and action scenes and other stuff you've worked on, but you know, I know the stunt team behind this movie and some others, they're like an intense group of guys. So can you take us through that process?
Yeah, I did training. I only had a couple months after I was shooting this other thing, and I had a couple months to train, but I went right into it as soon as I could. And it was the most intense training I'd ever done. These guys are the best in the world. You feel that when you're working with them. And they're so generous too, though, and kind. So you can only do what you can do, but they have such expertise that I just wanted to learn all that I could. It was jujitsu training. It was Greco-Roman wrestling training. And then, you know, obviously stunt choreography training, which isn't actual fighting. It's more like ballet, almost between two performers. But I did as much of it as I could. I was exhausted. It was the craziest, physically most challenging thing I've ever done. And it also was a lot of fun because those guys love what they do it at such a high level. And it's just beautiful to watch like experts like that at what they do. It's really fun to be a part of it.
Boss, what if he really is the real?
There's no such thing as Santa.
These bad men, they're all on my naughty list.
Were you familiar with Tommy Wirkola's work prior to this? Because obviously the guy's made some pretty out there movies. What was working with him like?
Yeah, I'd known about him a little bit. I say he made a new movie for Netflix, which I really liked. And then, yeah, he's a very surprising guy, like very sweet. I mean, one of the most compelling things about him was when we started the pitch, he's from Norway, and he was just like, I have to make this movie. I have to make this movie because in Norway we eat reindeer. Like he was talking about how much Christmas things, like how into Christmas he is. And so there's something about that passion, that enthusiasm. It was really cool. And once we started working together, he's just a sweet, almost like childlike, spontaneous, creative, supportive guy. And you know, wasn't the most elaborate shoot, it wasn't the biggest budget, so it's something where you have to have people that are willing to go the extra length as opposed to, and he really provided an environment that was really safe and really fun and kind. And I just really loved him. But also we were doing hard work and we were really going to make the best movie we possibly could. And I just really appreciate him for all of that.
This is my 4th year as a Santa. How about you?
I started the whole damn thing.
Was there anything in the script that maybe was too much for either Universal or just stuff that, like, when you read it, you were like, we're never going to get to do this, and maybe you didn't or got cut out of the final product?
No, I mean, I don't know. I forget what's in the actual movie. I sometimes, when I watch my own stuff, I sometimes shield my eyes because I can't take it. But most of the stuff, they were willing to go the length on a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, the funniest thing to me about where we're at is all the violence they were fine. I mean, I'm killing people with candy canes and Christmas ornaments and all this stuff. But I remember in the initial time we meet Santa, I wanted him to have the glasses. I want him to have like this saccharine Santa look. So I wanted him to also have a pipe. And they were like, no way. No tobacco. You cannot do tobacco. No pipe. And I was like, we're murdering people with all these things. They're like, that's fine, but no pipe.
Well, we don't want to spoil anything about how the movie ends, of course, but if Santa manages to survive this ordeal, would you be up for playing another one? Can you see a sequel to this happening?
I mean, there's a lot of possibility, isn't there? Like, once you start to add to the John Wick universe mythological child creatures, there's so much potential for the Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairies, and there's such ways to expand the Santa cinematic universe that would be pretty exciting.
Or Mrs. Claus, that would be cool.
Mrs. Claus, of course, she'd be top of the list.
Now, of course, you're preparing to shoot the final season of Stranger Things, and I know you can't talk too much about that, but I'm just curious how it feels going into the last season and reflecting on everything you've done and the success you and the show have had. And crazy to think it's been 6 years now.
Yeah, I think even longer for us because we started shooting it before. But I am, I'm really looking forward to diving into the last season. I mean, it feels like, I know that I'll be sad, but there's something about it, just knowing that it's the end and knowing we'll have 8 or 9 months, however long for us to shoot those episodes, where I'll really be able to burn up in Jim Hopper. And, so often you get to play a character in a movie and you just plan him for a couple of months, but I'll have like 8 months after, as you say, 6 years of this to really burn up with the last passion that I have and pour my whole heart and soul into this final season. And that, to me, there's something so exciting about that, where I don't feel sad yet. And I don't know that I ever will, but because the fact that I just get to do that is just so exciting to me.
And you think this is truly the last season? You think 3-4 years from now Netflix will be like, Stranger Things returns?
I have no doubt this is the last season. In fact, I mean, I know, at least from the Duffers' standpoint, they are writing an end to Stranger Things, and it is an end in a lot of different ways, is what they've said to me. I haven't read it, but I know that there is the possibilities of resurrecting would be, it's going to be an end to a show. And I think that that's scary to all of us and also very satisfying. I mean, one of the things the Duffers do very well is they really do knock it out with their seasons. So if they say they're going to end something, they're not going to mess around and be like, well, I don't know, maybe. They're going to like really swing for the fences and really end it. And I'm excited to see what that is, and I'm excited for it to be just a piece that you can watch over and over again. You can go back and just keep watching that show. But I have a feeling, while Netflix, I'm sure, will want to do spin-offs and all that stuff, I have no doubt that will continue. The actual core Stranger Things thing will have a start, a middle, and an end.
Wait. I'm not gonna...
So this obviously just seems to me like the perfect project for you. I mean, it's Die Hard with Santa Claus. What more could you want? Especially considering your fine work on the Dead Snow movies. Can you talk about how the project got into your hands?
Yeah, it was sent to me by 87 North, which is David Leitch, Kelly McCormick, and Guy Danella, and they sent it to me saying exactly that. Yeah, it's like Die Hard with Santa Claus. And intrigued, I got the script and read it, and I found it to be, yes, it was that, but it was so much more. It had all the crazy action you would expect, and the humor, and the edge, and the R-ratedness, but it had a surprising amount of heart as well. Like it still felt like a Christmas movie, and that was the first thing I said to them when I met with them. Is like, yeah, I love this and I want to do it. But I really want to try to embrace the Christmas movie nature of it, because if we can get that right, we can go as crazy as we want on the rest.
And David Harbour, I think, is probably just perfect casting. Was it like a no-brainer to bring him on board?
It really was. It was one of those moments where me, the producers in the studio, we were just all in agreement. Oh yeah, he's just perfect. And we got in the script. I talked to him on Zoom, and just a couple of days later, after he read it, and he loved it, and he really got the tone of what we were aiming for, and the character and the journey of Santa, and had a lot of great ideas. And as soon as he signed on board, it was the movie really kicked into gear. And yeah, just a few months later, we were in Winnipeg shooting.
I talked to him just before, and he said that you're very passionate about Christmas. Is that true?
Yeah, I guess I am. I do. Yeah. Well, I come from a place in the world as well, which is the northern Norway, which is it's kind of like the cliche Christmas you watch in movies. It's a lot of snow and Christmas lights, and so and yes, I guess it is, and Christmas movies, like big part of my, like, because of what I just said. Where I'm from, we lose the sun for about 2 months. It's dark, it is cold. We're inside a lot. We light the fireplace, and we watch a lot of movies. And of course, in that period of time, we watched a lot of Christmas movies. And when I read it, I was like, okay, this is my chance of, we can actually contribute to this very small bracket of movies, and hopefully make something that sticks out and can be watched on repeat in later Christmases too.
And it's a pretty unusual movie for like a major studio to put out, like Universal. And it's to their credit that they are. What kind of collaboration was there with them? I mean, were they just down for all the crazy stuff that you guys were doing?
Surprisingly, yes. There were several times where we had done a rewrite and we were sending the script back to them. I was pretty sure they were going to say, "Oh, what are you doing here? Maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you shouldn't do that." But they were always, "Yeah, go for it, go for it." And I think you're making a film like this. You got to create something that breaks through, like that feels different and fresh and edgy. And obviously, this is not. We don't have the budget of a Marvel movie, so we got to compensate on other things. We got to compensate through action and attitude and the humor, and I think they knew that, and they embraced that. And yeah, they've been fantastic partners, I have to say. It was a joy, and I really think the movie benefits from it too.
All right, revelers. Welcome to your worst Christmas ever. Let's go!
But anyway, into Violent Night. I mean, your character's name is literally Mr. Scrooge, and never a good sign for cheeriness in a holiday film. What makes this guy so naughty?
We gave you lots of reasons, good ones, in the flick. Disgruntled employee to this very super wealthy, obnoxious family that you end up falling in love with, but they are kind of annoying and despicable to begin with. So you can understand a little bit why Scrooge is coming to take vengeance on this family.
Yeah, and there's also like some pretty insightful backstory given to him too, where we learn a little bit, why he feels the way he does about Christmas, and I like that, as opposed to just making him, a complete bastard.
Yeah, because I like a role. I mean, I don't, as an actor, I don't need to be loved. I'm not clawing like that. I'm not needy, but I like to be understood as a character. I mean, I think that's when I do my best work.
Can you talk a little bit about working with Tommy? Because I don't know if you knew anything about his previous films, but they're all pretty wild. What was he like, that collaboration?
He's a beautiful director. He's so great to work with. He understands actors. He's a writer himself. He really understands character arc. He understands subtlety, you know, and he's so comfortable that he allows you to improvise and ad lib, and the best line wins. That's the way I like to work with when it's a collaboration. You know, film isn't really one person running a thing. It's everybody, and if you allow everybody to bring their gold, you got magic.
You have $300 million in your personal vault. That's what I want for Christmas.
And could you also talk about working with David? Because he seems like the kind of actor who's up for whatever.
Oh my God, David brings 300% to the game. He doesn't hold anything back. He leaves it all on the court. You know what I mean? It was so fun to watch him work. There was one sequence that we have, one of my favorite sequences, where we have a standoff, you know, in the middle of the movie, and I got him tied up with Christmas lights, and he brought this rage from some ancient place inside of him, and pain, and oh my God, it was incredible to watch him work.
And what about the other actors? Because you know, for a big bulk of the movie, it's like you and your hostages, and it kind of plays out almost like a play. You know, it's like
yes,
a lot of moving parts there, and a lot of speaking roles, and I got to imagine that was kind of fun to play with.
That was a lot of fun because, you know, we're ad-libbing and some of the lines were funny originally anyway, but then you got Edie adding jokes, Alex doing some crazy stuff. I was saying some crazy ill stuff that got them laughing too. So they're trying to be scared and they're cracking up because I'm cracking them up. So that was kind of fun to break each other up. You know, I enjoyed that.
And you mentioned the producers, and you know, obviously they worked on like John Wick and Bullet Train and Nobody, and so they have a very impressive track record in action films. What was their collaboration like, especially that element of it? Because I know how important, you know, stunts and fights are to them.
Yeah, when people ask me like what I mean, there's so many things that makes them unique, but they have just a tremendous love for action movies and like a burning desire to make great action flicks. And yes, part of their MO is to train the actors so they can really be part of the action and really shoot those scenes and get in there. And Harbour and John, they love that process to train, to rehearse, and it really helps the film when you can see that it's the actor doing those things and it's the actor getting his hands dirty and doing these fights. And no, they were fantastic partners, and obviously David Leitch, who's an amazing director, has a lot of great ideas when it comes to action. That's just, I mean, you know, who he is. And between me and him and the second unit director, Jojo Eusebio, who works a lot with them too, it was a really good like triangle of trying to come up with crazy stuff for the action, trying to top each other. And also we discovered really early on that, all right, what can we do to make these fights unique and to stand out and make also the fights different within themselves? And that was basically, we gotta embrace the fact that this is a Christmas movie. We got to use Christmas in any way possible. So that's why we use Christmas ornaments and decorations and the tree and the star and Christmas songs, and we use Santa's powers and the sack and the sleigh and So it was a great collaboration. And again, going back to what they care about is making great action movies and using Christmas and having that way in really give us a chance to do something different.
And so many of those sequences are very elaborate, and they seem like they'd be challenging to orchestrate. And you know, what are some of the challenges when you're choreographing not just the actors, but of course the camera, and then you know you have to worry about the lighting and all these props and everything else.
Yeah, no, there's every one of those fights had different challenges. And like for example, the first big fight in the film is one-er, like a one continuous shot, where we really wanted it to be a one-er because we wanted to feel Santa's stress at this moment because he's not found himself yet. He's not back to his ass kicking self just yet. So doing it as a one-er, kind of being with him through the fight, getting his ass kicked, really feeling the stress of that. So that was a big challenge to do because obviously there's David doing a lot of that, but we also got to swap him out for a stunt person at a few of those things because we just don't risk it with David in case he gets hurt. So, and doing that is in a one-er, we use what we call a Texas switch, where we basically swap the actors with the stunt double without hopefully the audience noticing.
Right.
So, no, that was a fun challenge, but it's so satisfying and we can pull it off in camera. And I believe there's within that sequence, there's 3 switches between Santa or David and the stunt person that hopefully goes unnoticed.
That's sort of like old fashioned, like how they used to shoot westerns and stuff like that, back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, and Edgar Wright did some amazing Texas switches on his last film, Last Night. And so I don't know, there's a dancing sequence, and he's like it's just there. It is an enormous satisfaction when you get that right, because it takes a lot of rehearsal, it takes a lot of work, but when it hits, it's just it feels really good.
And going back to the how unusual it is for a studio film to be like this, there's some pretty good, in addition to the action, there's some pretty good gore effects as well. Did you run into any trouble with the MPA? Did you have to cut some stuff out?
No, not yet. I mean, maybe they haven't seen it yet. I don't know, but no, we haven't gotten any pushback on that. But, and I do believe it's because of the tone, because it still feels, despite all the crazy stuff that is in there, it feels like a Christmas movie. It's got humor and heart, and it's kind of in a fantastical world, so you get away with more than. But yeah, no, it's not yet. At least we haven't heard anything from them.
Well, and finally, I just got to tell you, like, one of my favorite press screenings of all time was Dead Snow 2, because everybody just went insane. And these were critics. This was not a general audience. This was like a room full of critics, and everybody's just losing their minds. And it was amazing, and I always think about it. It just leads me to ask, do you think there's another Dead Snow in the future, or is that behind you now?
Well, Dead Snow 2 was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my professional career. I loved making that film. Yeah, that unfortunately, no, it was not to bring down the mood, but the lead actor, Vegard Hoel, who was also the co-writer, he passed away last year from leukemia. So we were actually in the process of writing Dead Snow 3 when all this went down. So no, we're not going to continue the movie series, but we are talking about maybe trying to bring it back in the TV space and do something different with it. But yeah, Dead Snow 2 was, I'm glad to hear you say that, because it was such a joy making that film. And it really is one of those, like this one, it's one of those films where it's not always you get it right, like from the script to the screen, like the vision that you envision when you first kind of read it or wrote it. But in Dead Snow 2 and in Violet Night, those are the cases. It really is the film we wanted to make.
I don't want any trouble, okay? Someone's gonna scooch up that chimney.
Was Santa, an important part of Christmas for you growing up? Because, I guess it is for so many kids. And could you have ever imagined that you'd be in a movie beating the crap out of him one day?
That was the only thing that I was a little scared of, is like, oh man, I just did Encanto, and I was Bruno, and I was beloved by kids. Now I'm going to be hated. If I do my job right, I'm going to be hated by everybody for Christmas. So that there was a little trepidation there to relinquish that title of being beloved. But I was okay. Yeah, I think Christmas was big for me. I mean, Santa Claus was everything. I wanted Santa Claus to come to my house so bad, but we lived in the projects, so we didn't have no chimney. We had an incinerator. So I was afraid that I was always writing Santa, please be careful. Our incinerator is really hot.
Yeah, I grew up in an apartment too in Jackson Heights, and I was like, how's he going to get in here? I guess through the window or maybe the front door. I don't know.
Did you have an incinerator, those crazy incinerators?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. With fires flying through it.
Yeah. Now, this isn't the first time you were terrorizing people on Christmas, because you were a bad guy in Die Hard 2 many years ago.
Well, barely. I mean, I was demoted because I was shorter than all the other guys. So I was terrorist number 1 on video when I auditioned, but then I got demoted to terrorist number 7, and then I died with a mask on my face. They dubbed my voice. It wasn't even my voice in the movie.
Wow. I mean, looking back on that, and you were obviously just starting out, do you remember being optimistic that you'd be working as consistently as you are, all these years later?
Well, to be honest, I knew my chances were really difficult because I was a Latin man in Hollywood. All my white friends that I was in college with were all having 5-10 auditions a day, and I had one every, 5 months. Because to be honest with you, the casting, you had a casting breakdown. It was like Jim Crow. It was like white male only. So it was like, oh wow, they won't even see me, no matter how talented I was. They wouldn't see you. So I knew Hollywood wasn't inclusive. So I went the theater route, performance artist route, comedy clubs. I'd go wherever I could be. They would allow me in.
Do you still love doing the one man shows, which is really something that people love about your career?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I love. I think that's where I get my power from. My fan base and my creativity is all in the one man shows, and I'm very proud of that work I did there because I feel like I really changed American comedy. I feel like I ushered in a different waves of comedy to America, adding a lot more depth, pain to comedy, and sexuality to comedy. I mean, in Freak, I ushered in two big movies: spooge comedy and sex with food. So that was before American Pie, before Something About Mary, and they all came to see my show. So I know they were influenced by me.
That's amazing. And final question, maybe a tough one, probably one you've heard many times, but if you could, favorite role of all time of yours?
Oh, that's hard, bro. Favorite role? Wow. Woo. Shoot, that's a tough one. I mean, I love Tybalt in my role as Tybalt, and then I got to say, Summer of Sam was my first opportunity being allowed to be a leading male in a movie, and they let me do. I mean, working with Spike, one of the great masters of cinema, was the highlight of my life.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. It's great talking to you, and
Thank
congrats
you.
on the film.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.